If you're a data analyst or data scientist, building dashboards and running reports are just a part of the job. But let me ask you something. The last time you built a dashboard or ran a report, how long did it take for you to source the data, clean the data, and then drag and drop components in a Tableau or a Power BI? A pretty long time, right? Now think about the last time a metric on your dashboard spiked or tanked. How long did it take for you to investigate and find the root cause? It is so frustrating, but this is the kind of work we have to do as data analysts and data scientists. But let me show you how you can speed up these processes using OpenAI's new release, ChatGPT Work. I've been testing it for about a week, and I am so excited to show you what you can build with just a few prompts. My name is Dawn. I was a data scientist at Meta and a business intelligence engineer at Amazon, and now I teach data science and AI for a living. In this video, I'm going to show you how I use ChatGPT Work to build this live dashboard, complete with a weekly report that goes into the data, finds outlier trends, and even tries to find the root cause. Then I'll show you how you can set up this whole process in ChatGPT Work so that it runs automatically before you even wake up. Let's dive into it. All right, let's start building our live dashboard. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to go into ChatGPT Work, and we're going to make sure it's connected to our SQL database. Here I'm connecting to a Snowflake database, but you can connect to any kind of SQL database, Postgres, MySQL, etc. Or you can even connect to Excel, Google Sheets, or upload a CSV file. The way ChatGPT works is that you are working in a local folder on your computer. So here you can see I'm working in the ChatGPT Work demo folder. I'm going to go in here and just make sure it has connections to my Snowflake database. All my connection variables are in my .m file, which contains my environment variables. That is all my secrets, so I will not be showing that on the computer, but I will just confirm with ChatGPT that it has access to my Snowflake database. So I'm going to switch over here to a less smart model. Sol is very intelligent, but also very slow. We don't really need that to confirm that we have connection to Snowflake. So all I'm going to say is, can you confirm that you have select access to my Snowflake database? When you do, please return all the tables that are in my demo.retail schema. All right, so I'm going to have that run. Okay, I'm not sure if it's still running. I'm just going to follow up. Are you still running? Usually when it's running, it does show this. So I want to make sure it's still running. Oh, yes. Okay, so that works. ChatGPT was pretty smart here. I had a typo in my database. It was supposed to be demo DB. I put in demo instead, and it confirmed that it has select access with these tables in my database. All right, so now we know that we are connected to the SQL database. Let's go ahead and use ChatGPT Sites to build a live dashboard. So Sites exists here as a plugin. So we're going to turn that on, and then I'm going to put in a prompt to ask it to build a site for me. I already written the prompt on the site, so let me copy and paste that in. Let's go over this prompt together really quickly. We'll say that we're going to first give it a role, right? You're a data analyst on the data analytics team at a company called Dome Depot. You're building a ChatGPT site that reports on this data, refresh weekly, so the company can understand product performance and weekly trends. We explain the data sources that we have, and then we explain the structure of the site that we want. So we're going to have two tabs. The first is a live dashboard. We're going to cover this first. It's connected to Snowflake Live, and it's refreshed every time the dashboard is loaded, so it always reflects the latest data. This is really important. We want to make sure there's always a live connection so that we know the data is always going to be fresh. This will show both daily and weekly trends. Of course, in here, if you wanted to, you can specify exactly what charts you want it to have. But for this demo, I'm going to keep it pretty simple. We also have a second tab that we're asking for a weekly report that is refreshed once a week. I'm going to cover this in a second. Let's go ahead and let ChatGPT start to build out this site. Because this is a relatively complex project, I'm going to go ahead and bump it up to the most intelligent model, which is 5.6 Sol as of July 2026. So let's have that run. Okay, so I've run this before. It's going to take, I think, like 10 to 15 minutes. So because of that, I'm going to step aside and I will check back in when this is done. Okay, so ChatGPT is done working. It's worked for, we can see here, 5 minutes and 22 seconds. Let's see what they created for our site. Let's open it up in Google Chrome. Oh, okay. So right away, it tells us that sales are behind. Let's look at the dashboard itself. We can see immediately we have an overview of the business. We can see week-to-date sales seems to be down. Sales orders also seem to be down. Units also seem to be down. And we can see all of that really quickly at a glance. Okay, so this is our dashboard. That is pretty cool. We can see not just the overview, but also the category sales leaders and the top products and how those have moved against the prior week. So this is a pretty good dashboard. Just even ChatGPT built that in 5 minutes. If I had done it myself, something like that would take me, if I was super fast, maybe 2 or 3 days. So this has already saved us a lot of time. Now, let's go into where it really makes a big difference. So we can see that sales are down 10% week over week. Typically, if we notice something like this, where sales are down week over week, or there's some kind of an anomalous trend that we want to look into, we would have to go dive into the data, figure out what's happening ourselves, and that can take a day of work. Instead, use ChatGPT to speed up this process. So when we go back into the prompt, we can see here that I added a second tab. This is going to be a weekly report that is refreshed only once per week on Monday morning at 8 a.m. It contains a section that says, pay attention to these. So these are outlier trends that we want to make sure that we're looking at. And then a deep dive section. So for each of those trends, it actually goes in and does the work of trying to figure out what exactly happened. And at the bottom, we have a weekly trends overview and recommendations. These are like evergreen sections. So even if nothing weird happened in the metrics, we would have these sections to look at every week. Now let's see what this looks like in the ChatGPT site. So let's go back in here. I asked for it in a separate tab. So let's click on weekly report. And it looks like we have an exception, a 1101 exception. To be honest, I don't know what that is. So I'm just going to take a screenshot of this and I'm going to give it to ChatGPT. I'll say the first tab worked great, but I am getting this error on the second tab. And then I'll add in the screenshot of the error. So once again, I'm going to have ChatGPT run and figure out what went wrong. While that is running, I want to show you something else. So while that is running, I'm actually going to show you one thing real quick, which is like how these sites get created. It is not all like loaded in some kind of server somewhere that we cannot see. This is all code that exists now in our folder, and we can go in and see what's happening if we wanted to. So we're going to toggle open the site panel. We're going to find the right folder, and we can see in here, these are the files that ChatGPT created to create this website. So if you wanted to go deep into the code, you can go in there and look at it yourself. So ChatGPT worked for 3 minutes and 55 seconds, and it looks like it fixed the error. So let's go open up the weekly report. I'll close the old tab to confirm that it is working. Cool. So now we can see we're in the weekly report and it is indeed working. So as we asked for a pay attention to this section, and we can see that that first metric that we talked about earlier, sales fell week over week by 10%, and we can figure out why really, really quickly because ChatGPT already did the analysis for us. What we're going to do is we're going to click on the deep dive here, and we can see ChatGPT went ahead and found the root cause for us. What's driving it? The change is concentrated in lower order and unit volume rather than price movement. So what we can see is they found a potential root cause. It's got even evidence on the site here to explain how it thought through the problem. And of course, us as a data professional, whether data science or data analyst, we are responsible for actually finding out the root cause and validating the data. So I like to think about this report as like the first pass, right? It takes out like the first 80% of the work, the investigation work that I would do. What I would do is then go ahead and validate and maybe even go a layer deeper in this root cause analysis to find out actually what happened and then come up with my own recommendations. And one last section, we're going to talk about the weekly trends overview. This looks a lot like our live dashboard, but this is a snapshot that is taken once a week on the Monday. Because remember, this weekly report, we are only doing it once a week. So we can see the snapshot each week. And you can imagine like this is what you're going to do to drive your weekly business review meeting. Or you can screenshot this and send it out in a Slack message to your team so everyone's on the same page on what's happening on the business. This alone will save you so much time each week. But let's go ahead and do one last thing to make it even more of a time saver. The last thing we're going to do is we're going to have this weekly report run automatically without us having to go into ChatGPT and ask it to refresh the data. All we have to do is create a scheduled task, and we can do that in the same chat, having ChatGPT set up that scheduled task for us. Let's do it this way. Can you schedule this report to be refreshed every Monday morning at 5 a.m. Eastern Time. Okay, so I'm going to have it run this report every Monday morning at 5 a.m. Eastern Time so that by the time I get to work at say like 8 or 9 a.m., the report's already ready. I'm also going to drop the model back over to a more standard Terra model because I don't think I need that much intelligence to do a scheduled task. It's off to work and we'll check back in. All right, looks like ChatGPT has created schedules. So let's open this up to confirm. So it's got the instructions on what it's supposed to do every Monday. And then we can open up the settings in here. We can see that it runs on a weekly basis on Monday. This is a little hard to read, but you can kind of interpret it at about 5 a.m. It's running on Eastern Time because that's the time zone I'm in. Okay, so look what we have in just a few prompts. We have a live dashboard that is connected to our Snowflake database. We also have a weekly report that is refreshed every Monday before we even get to work. It goes ahead, it looks for any outlier data, and even tries to find the root cause. At the end of the day, as a data scientist, we are responsible and accountable for any analyses and dashboards that we put out in the world. So for example, if I were to use any of these investigations, I would go ahead and manually validate the data myself and the insight before sharing it with any of the stakeholders. But look what we have done in just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 prompts. We have a whole dashboard, we have a weekly report with a deep dive, and we have that all scheduled out. You can do so much with ChatGPT Work. This is a very, very rough and simple overview of what is possible with 5 prompts. So go ahead and give ChatGPT Work a try. If you have any questions, comment below, or if there's anything else you want to see in the next video, let me know.